Us as humans, we have like 5 senses. Normally, when you're interacting with a computer, like a lot of the primary interaction is text, but there's just some things that don't communicate well over text. There's a saying, right, that an image is worth 1,000 words. I think that is very true. And I think especially when you're building any sort of consumer-facing product or enterprise-facing product and such, there's normally some sort of UI component to it.
Advice, take 1, Mark.
I'm Advait. I'm a software engineer at Warp, working on the agents team on AI features that you hopefully know and love. Today we'll be talking about images context. This is a feature within Warp that allows you to attach an image to a particular agent query in order to complete a task. It's very hard to describe to an agent, like this is off by this many pixels or something, and go find this component. And so instead of doing this complicated whatever, describing what this thing is, I can just now give it an image. And I think it's just able to understand things a lot better. Because I think the other thing to remember is that at the end of the day, like AI is just trained on human data. Like I think similar to how humans just understand images better and just like it kind of clicks for me. I think agents also just like, it's easier for them to understand and help you accomplish the task you're trying to do. I wanted to demo taking something from a Figma mock into Warp itself. And so this is a common kind of task I do as an engineer. We're working with our awesome designers. And so in particular, I'm guessing many of you may have heard of MCP. And I wanted to show one of the ideas we're considering for installing MCP servers. And so just to provide a bit of product context before I get too deep into the weeds on agent mode. So currently within Warp, we have this interface for MCP servers. And so you can go ahead and add an MCP server with a particular JSON with details here. However, one of the things we wanted to introduce is kind of easier installation flow for MCP servers. And so one of our designers, Peter, has come up with an awesome mock here, which kind of shows a more visual way of installing MCP servers, particularly for really popular MCP servers, having this concept of a marketplace. And so the way I would go about building this is I can just simply take a screenshot of this, and then now let's try passing this off to agent mode in order to see what it can do for us. So attach this as context. So for attaching images, you can just head down here, click on the icon. Let me head over to screenshot. Cool, now we can see this is attached. Help me build this MCP marketplace concept. We can also use voice since it's a bit faster, so let me switch over to voice here for typing this in. I want to have just hard-coded data. Let's focus on the UI components with this piece. And then I'll also tell you where this file is. Cool, and then let's tell it the file just so it can find this easily. So I know this is in the rendering logic is in this collection.rs file. Yeah, we can see it's now taking a look at the file structure. Cool, it's identified that we've passed in this image and it's now creating this diff, so cool. This is the first diff it's applying. Go ahead and apply that. As a note, if you want to edit any diffs or refine any diffs, you can do that with this code diff view as well. And then now it's creating the appropriate data structures. And so, at least for now, we're not going to hook it up to the backend and kind of create the MCP itself, but just create a kind of UI, the front-facing UI for this. Cool, so we see that it's identified the components from the image that it passed in. So we see browser automation, calendar management, cloud platforms and such. And then the different icons it's picked up from a code base here. So this diff makes sense to me. Apply these changes. It's created a plan and it's going through a set of to-dos that it's defined. And so it kind of has this particular goal, in this case, matching the mock that we're attempting to get to. So again, look, like if we go switch back to the mock, we can see we had this linear, GitHub, Stripe, and some details here. And so this is essentially matching exactly what we expect from that image. And then as I'm going through this, if I wanted to, I can also activate fast forward mode. And so down here, I can just auto approve agent mode code diffs. I want to make sure that, it has a good idea of the task I've given it, and it has a good idea of the context that I've given it. And so the common pitfalls I've seen in the past is it goes off like trying to edit the wrong file perhaps, or it's actually misinterpreted the task. And so I think usually kind of where I've seen agentic interactions fail is near the start. And then the rest of this is largely just execution. And so now it's, adding in all the rendering code with our UI framework logic here. Looking at the code diff view, this is like structured similarly to kind of GitHub UI that you may be used to. And so it shows you how many lines of code it's adding and removing, and you can see the actual diffs themselves. And then if you have multiple diffs inside, let's find a good example of this. I guess, yeah, it is possible to have like multiple hunks as well. So these, it's doing it iteratively here. I guess one of the notes there is that we've generally found AI models to be better at doing smaller diffs. And so kind of iteratively applying diffs is a bit better than trying to get an AI agent to do everything in one shot, which generally just doesn't lead to the best results. However, it can also, if it chooses to, if there's a semantic operation, for example, that crosses multiple files and has just multiple lines of code, then it can suggest multiple hunks across files as well. It looks like we've kind of finished. Agent mode has given us a quick summary here of what it just did. And so I find this is a useful way to kind of check what the agent has done as well. And so here we can see the UI components. It's adding this hardcode data for now, which later we can, back this against our database and server endpoints and everything else. Let's go ahead and run this and see what Warp came up with. Cool, so this is Warp itself. Let's go, I guess I have an MCP servers tab open. So this is pretty awesome. This is what Warp came up with. And here you can see that we have the kind of 3 MCP servers that we expected here with Linear, GitHub, and Stripe. So next steps here would be to actually hook this up to the backend. And so hook it up to some server endpoints, hook it up to the existing MCP logic that we have, and kind of really enable these workflows end to end. And so I would go ahead and hook up the click handlers and kind of just all the pipelining here. However, as a person that, struggles with UI and just traditionally, for example, in the past, don't love working with like nitty CSS details and such, this is pretty awesome because it's just a super tedious task that would have taken me 1 or 2 days that the agent was able to complete in around 20 minutes. This was a fun feature build. It was something I've personally wanted in Warp for a while. And so one of the fun facts there actually was that I built this feature using Warp as well with an agent. But I think one of the hardest parts here was that images can really rack up tokens quite quickly. And so thinking through the kind of product side of this, where we don't want to kind of put a foot gun in for users and allow them to really blow up their token counts inadvertently, one of the things that we added in here was that we actually resize images for you intelligently on the client side before passing it off to the server and before passing it off to the different LLM providers that we support. And so the big thing we wanted to do there was just really make this more efficient for our users and minimize the amount of tokens we're using for images context.